Hey guys, welcome back to Techno Hack. This is Parikshit here, back again with another video. And in the continuation of our web application vulnerability series, this is also going to be another video. And in this video, we are going to learn about the CORS vulnerability, which is nothing but the cross-origin resource sharing vulnerability. Alright, so this is also one among the OS top 10 vulnerabilities, and we are going to learn what it is, how to perform and exploit it, and what are the remediations for this vulnerability. So we have seen in the previous video like what is SSRF, what is CSRF, how to find and exploit it, and what are the preventions for this kind of vulnerabilities, right? So the same way now we are going to learn about the CORS, right? So if you are new to the video and channel, make sure to hit the like button for this video if you like this video, and make sure to hit the subscribe button as well, and also press the bell icon so that you will not miss the next videos that I'm going to upload. Alright guys, so without making any further delay, let's get started to our video. So let's first understand what is CORS, or what is cross-origin resource sharing. So as the name suggests, cross-origin means a different origin or a third-party site, right, who is trying to access resources. And now cross-origin resource sharing means we are trying to provide the resources to this third party, to this cross-origin. Alright, so this is nothing but your cross-origin resource sharing. Here what happens is like a third-party site is trying to access the resources of a first party, or this is something where we are allowing a third party site to access the resources from our first party site on our own site, right? So now let's understand it by example. Let's say YouTube is trying to access a data of Google which it needs for some purpose, right? So suppose if Google is not allowing its data to be shared to YouTube won't be able to do a certain task, right? So it needs it has to be there, right? So this is what it is. So Google is allowing a YouTube to access their resources, right? So this is it. This is nothing but a CORS, guys, because there are some sites where there is some sensitive pages or sensitive information lies in between these sites, right? And if the cross-origin resource sharing or the resource sharing is enabled between the cross-origin, any third-party site or any other site can be able to access these private or sensitive resources from this third-party site. So usually a browser doesn't allow it to be accessed, right? And this is what they call like a same origin policy. So let's first understand what is origin here. So origin is nothing but your website or any site which contains or which is having images or scripts loaded over there, right? So it is like a combination, or it contains three entities, which is nothing but the first one will be the protocol, the second is the host name, and the third one is the port. And when you combine all these things, it becomes a site, it becomes a website. So this is nothing but a origin, right? So a first party origin is on one site, and the third party origin is nothing but a third party site or any other site, right, who is trying to access the data from this first party site. Like as we have seen and considered with the example, like Google or YouTube is trying to access the data from Google because it needs it. So YouTube is like a third party site here, and Google becomes a first party site. And now let's understand what is same origin policy. So same origin policy is a browser's mechanism or a policy of a browser which prevent for this kind of thing, like for resource sharing, right, where it prevent the resources to be accessed from any third party site. Where if suppose let's say a same origin policy is there, by default it is provided by browser, and not any browser, some browser like Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and now Safari also supports it, Opera and IE11. These browsers supports for the same origin policy. Okay, so what it does exactly is it prevents the resource sharing to be happen between the third party and first party. Like let's say if YouTube is trying to access some data of Google, or any other third party site is trying to access the data from any first party site, okay, so that will not happen, right? And this is something the same site, the same origin policy does, alright? But sometimes this is tedious, right? Because it is essential for YouTube to access the data of Google because it needs it for their purpose, right? And to do some task, right? So for this reason, what needs to be done here, right? There should be something which will allow us to access this data, and this is nothing but, guys, like a cross origin policy. So for the same reason, a cross origin policy came into the picture, and here what it does is it allows us, or it allows any third party site to access the resources from any first party site, but it has to be implemented properly into the first party site. Okay, if I am owning any one website and I want others to be able to access my resources, so for that I should be able to do, or I will need to implement this cross origin policy into my website so that others will access it, right? So this is what it does. Okay, so whenever we send any request to a server, suppose let's say I am using in third party site and I am trying to access a data from any first party site. Okay, so this will make a request to a server to access the data, right? Generally, whenever we try to access any data from a first party website, so what happens is, like, usually a normal request or a simple request will go. So this is nothing but a simple request where we are trying to access something from a first party site. I am using a default headers like a get, post or head, and I am trying to access any data from a first party website. Okay, so what will happen is, like, this will become a simple request, and it will go to a server and it will fetch that particular data and it will give it to us, right? Because in a cross origin policy, it is configured properly that whenever a request comes along with the get, post and headers, so this will be considered as a simple request, and whatever the data that third party website is looking for, the first party website will serve it to the third party site, right? So this is what will happen here, not generally, right? So but whenever any third party site is trying to access something else, or he wants to do something else to this first party website, so what happens is, like, he will try to change any header into the request, and what he will do is, like, he will either try to change any header, the request method, or origin. He will try to change any origin, he will try to change the request methods, or I'm trying to use a put method to put something or to replace any file directly into the first party website. Will that really happen over there, right? So it should not happen, and for that exactly a server is already configured not to accept this kind of methods directly, not to accept this kind of changes into the request directly, and it will not directly send to the server at all, right? So this is what a browser will prevent at this case, and now this is where the pre-flight request will come. So this is what we want to understand here. What is pre-flight request? So whenever attacker or we are, like, trying to make any changes into the header or a request, we are trying to add any extra header, we are trying to add or change the origin into the request, and then we are trying to sending it to the particular victim or the first party site where we are trying to change something. So first of all, a browser will send a pre-flight request to a server. He will send this request to a server, and he will tell that the upcoming request will have these method and these headers which are changed over there. So do you allow or do you approve for this, or do you approve for this upcoming request, right? So if now server will check that, okay, these are the methods that it is configured within it, and he is okay with that or he is not okay with that. So he will approve for this particular thing or he will deny for this. So once he get the approval or denial from the server, the browser will now send a simple request to a server again, and this simple request will now contain these particular headers which we have changed. Like, let's say, suppose the attacker is trying to change something, okay, so he's trying to delete something. Now he will send this particular request in the form of a simple request, and then it will go to the server, and the respective thing will happen over there, right? So this is what exactly happens, and this is where exactly the vulnerability lies, guys. So what happened here now, let's say, suppose if server is not properly configured to allow to which methods to be allowed and which headers to be allowed, right? So in this case, an attacker can try to craft any kind of methods into the request, and he can try to fetch any result from the server, right? So this is where the vulnerability lies, and this is what now we are going to learn practically as well, how to craft such kind of responses to the request to the server, and how we get a response from the server. Alright, so let's see, and before that let's understand what are the things that we can change into the request. Alright, so here we can do is like we can try to change the origin, and we can see if the server is allowing for this origin or not. Also we can try to change the HTTP methods, like as we said, a delete or put kind of method we can try to update in there, and we will see if server is allowing us to do a delete or put kind of things to us. Alright, and the third thing is header, where we can try to change any header or we can add any extra header, and then we can send this request to server, right? So if server will check that, and if he is okay with it, he will check and he will respond that this header is allowed, and if not, our request will be rejected. Alright, so this is what will happen, guys. Alright, now before moving to the practical session of this video, let's understand some keynotes of this vulnerability. Okay, so there is something called wildcard. Okay, and wildcard means it is giving access to everything. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, that a server is configured with the particular header values or particular methods, what is allowed and what is not, right? So in this case, if server is configured to allow everything, usually a developer will provide it as an asterisk mark over there, and this is nothing but a wildcard. Okay, so what will happen is like it will confirm us that the server is allowing any other site to access their resources, and this is exactly a developer or you should never use in your web application. Alright, because it will give access to everything. But there are certain conditions here. Now let's look at the first condition, what it is. So suppose if you are maintaining wildcard and you're giving access to everyone to access your resources, but here in this case there is another header which is nothing but the access control allow credential, and this is what we configured at the server side. So suppose if you are configuring it to true, so this is something which is very dangerous, and by default browser prevents for this kind of vulnerability. Alright, so if you are maintaining wildcard for any origin, okay, and you are maintaining access control allow credential to true, a browser itself will block for such kind of request, and it will not let this vulnerability exploit. Alright, so this is the very good prevention that a browser provides from itself. But in this case, again, suppose let's say if you are not maintaining the wildcard, and if you are allowing a particular origin who is trying to make a request to you, and you are having an access control allow credential to true, and in this case a vulnerability can be exploited. Alright, so this is another condition or a dangerous thing that is there, where a browser cannot prevent from this thing. Now also guys, just to let you know, there is another thing called null. Okay, so just like a wildcard, a developer have an option to update their setting as null, where some web application or developer they keep it null and they are giving access to everyone and anyone can access it. And another mistakes that a developer can do is giving access to all subdomain of a particular site, where in this case now what another can do is like he can try to create any subdomain for this particular site on his own, and he will try to access any resources from there, and that will happen because it is configured already in the server that any subdomain for this particular site is allowed. The same way what can happen again is developers can give access, or they sometimes give access to website, and they are allowing all other domains which are there after this particular site. So let's say suppose a developer is giving access to all the domain that is beginning with the google.com. So google.com, and then after that it could be anything, right? So even attacker can create such kind of thing where he will create any google.com dot something blah 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 dot co.in or something like that. Alright, so he can make such kind of domains and he can create it, and then he can try to attack it, and that will happen because it is already configured in the server. Alright, so this is another mistake that usually happens with the developer, and this is what you should make sure that you are not doing it for your web application. Alright, so this is all about the CORS. I hope you like and you understood the concept of the CORS, and if you like, please make sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe guys and hit the bell icon so that you will not miss the next videos that I'm going to upload. Alright guys, and before we wrap up, I want to update you with this small report from the YouTube, which is showing me that a 90% of a user who is watching my videos regularly, they have not subscribed it yet, and 10% of them who are watching regularly, only they have subscribed to my channel. So if you're doing this, I think that is not fair, guys. So if you're one from this 90% of user, please don't do this, guys. This is not fair. I am doing this hard work just for you, and if you want to appreciate me and want to support me and this channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, so that whatever the next videos that I'm going to upload, you will not miss that as well. Alright, that's it, and we will see the practical session in the next video. So till then, thanks for watching, have a great day, and bye bye.